Mobile games will always be in an awkward space. They constantly teeter on the edge of leeching your time and respecting your space. They interject themselves as part of your daily life, so you play them out of habit. If this routine becomes a chore, players will move on. Innovating new content must be a staple to keep your players satisfied so they come back for more. Difficult challenges must be worth the rewards, so new strategies are devised. But they also need to foster a relaxing environment so casuals don't feel pressured. There's this common phrase that gets passed around: if you try to please everyone, you won't please anyone. And you can't make everyone happy. But it's interesting that mobile games attempt to do exactly that. Many developers have failed to create this fleeting balance. Throughout my years playing gacha games, I have never discovered one that perfectly balances all factors equally. There has never been an all-rounder mobile game because it's safer to excel in one dynamic. After all, it's easier to advertise the best products of the game than the whole package. I couldn't help but wonder if a game like this would ever make a ripple in the market. When I brought this question up to my friend, they said that Girls Frontline 2 could be exactly what I was looking for. Could Girls Frontline 2 be the definition of a perfectly balanced mobile game? Or do they simply exceed in a few departments while lacking in others? My name is Nonpon, and we're going to deep dive into Girls Frontline 2. You may be shocked to know that I played Girls Frontline 2 on an emulator. That's because I use LDplayer, which is the sponsor of this video. It's a free Android emulator that lets you play any mobile game on your PC with mouse and keyboard. LDplayer is my go-to emulator for games that offer high-quality graphics, and Girls Frontline 2 is no exception. Not only did I save disk space by downloading the mobile version through LDplayer, it also demands less of my computer. This helps me stream without worrying about my PC melting. I can also run multiple instances of Girls Frontline 2 to complete dailies on my separate accounts. It supports a wide range of popular games and ensures peak performance for an Android gaming experience. You can use the link in the description to download Girls Frontline 2 on the Sunboard or HowPlay server. And huge thanks to LDplayer for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. Girls Frontline 2 is the second game in the series, but this doesn't come without a cost. Sequels in gacha games are a rare case. Normally, video games benefit from adding entries in their series to advertise earlier products. But this doesn't work well in the gacha space. Usually, if there's a 2 in the gacha title, it means that its previous entries flopped. One example is Princess Connect Redive, which is the successor to Princess Connect. On top of that, having a sequel to your game would siphon the old entry instead of promoting it. If there's a new polished sequel, you can assume that the microtransactions will populate them over the old title. Does this mean Girls Frontline 1 was a failure? Absolutely not. I would argue that Girls Frontline getting a sequel is more of a trophy than a downfall. Instead of lying over an ending service, they instead took the chance to adapt to the ever-changing gacha space. That isn't easy to do. Despite how uncertain Girls Frontline future was, they made a new game anyway. They didn't take the easy way out, and for that, they have my respect. Not only that, but a sequel can help you make a better product. You have the experience of what worked and can refine your game with it. But can its history hold up to its quality? Without spoiling the story, Girls Frontline 2 takes place 10 years after Girls Frontline 1. You are acquainted with T-dolls, which are basically android women because waifus print money. These T-dolls are powerful frontline soldiers who use an arsenal of weaponry. As the commander, you direct these soldiers in battles to discover the mysteries of Girls Frontline 2 and uncover what happened within the 10-year time gap. Throughout the game, you'll meet new and old faces, and it's these old reunions that make the Girls Frontline veterans rejoice. Gacha games introduce new characters systematically. They will announce someone you've never heard of and try to get you to fall in love with them as quickly as possible before tossing them in the bin. Unless your game is a huge IP like Fire Emblem Heroes, new character announcements are just OCs. There's no history of the character outside of its episodic patch. However, Girls Frontline does have an established history already. There are old characters players recognize and many fan favorites who are craving for them to be added, especially when they'll be upgraded from a tiny chibi to a fully 3D model. The introduction of these old characters reinforce the world and its storytelling. It's an opportunity that doesn't get established enough. But regardless of how great the story may be, it doesn't really matter unless it can back up its gameplay. A well-written story can make a good game great, but it can't make a bad game good. Otherwise, people would just watch the story through YouTube. Does Girls Frontline 2 hold a candle in this ever-changing market? Good gameplay in the gacha needs to be digestible. The entire goal of a mobile game is to have easy access to play whenever you want. Even if the gameplay is amazing, it won't mean much to mobile players if it's too invested. Take open world games like Wuthering Waves for example. Trying to fight difficult bosses while on mobile is not enjoyable. This is an example of how great gameplay isn't always accessible to all platforms. Girls Frontline 2 opts in with its XCOM-like gameplay. Tactical turn-based games like these are pretty time invested. I remember playing difficult levels in Fire Emblem and they took hours. But despite how levels can become a huge time sink, they are still digestible for the mobile audience, especially when the main story chapters can be finished with ease. Depending on your team composition, you may be able to auto most of the content, but there will be times where new mechanics won't work well with the AI, so you'll have to play manually at times. As a new player myself, I was able to auto about 85% of the story. This allowed me to enjoy the story and free rewards. The game's progression flow is very thought out. Eventually, you'll hit a pause in the story that requires your account to be a certain level. I call this the recess from the story, because it's around these stopgaps that the game throws new modes at you. Downtime in the story isn't meant to delay you, it's meant to teach you about investing in your characters. Supply missions will unlock gradually and at new difficulties. I was able to auto about 95% of these levels too. Completing these levels for the first time reward the players with bonus materials and summon currency, which we'll talk about later. In-depth search and equipment analysis reward the player with materials that can level up your units. Unit levels can only go as high as your account level. This will capitalize how important it is to complete dailies so your max level is raised. Normally, I don't like this account level gimmick, but it makes sense in the concept of a tactical RPG. It prevents the player from just power leveling two characters, and instead pushes them to create a squad with synergy. The best thing about these modes is that they take the least amount of stamina to farm. Most games set all materials to a set value of stamina, but this game weighs stamina value across the board individually. Cognitive configuration and neuron survey is where players will actually start committing. These modes reward you with materials that unlock new skills for your characters. You can equip up to 3 skills, but you unlock way more than that. You can always swap them in anytime you want to. If you're not sure about what to do, you can always click this button here to see a cheat sheet. They also have a thumbs up icon on suggested skills and weapons to make things easy to understand. Skill organization is very concise. If you don't understand something, the highlighted text will show you. While it has a lot to learn, it won't force you to learn if you really do just want to auto your entire setup. This system caters to both casuals and hardcore players. It makes a complicated game like XCOM not so complicated. Targeted Study and Standardizing Sync are the endgame progression modes. Targeted Study is how you farm weapon attachments, which are basically artifacts with randomized substats. However, Girls Frontline 2 has a system that isn't as cruel as other games. In many games, you have to level up a piece of gear to even see the stats on it. Girls Frontline lets you see all of them at the start. This basically means you never have to invest in bad gear because you already see the whole package. Once you have an attachment with good stats, you can then use gold to roll those good stats even higher. It's an amazing system where the player won't lose out on investment. You can always get more gold through Standardizing Sync, but only twice a day due to how precious this material is. To recap, the story and material levels are pretty easy and digestible for all audiences. So far, this doesn't sound like a tactical RPG. It sounds more like an auto AFK game. Girls Frontline 2 does offer challenging content. Let me rate the modes like Reese Cups because they're one of my favorite candies. Material levels are like bite-sized Reese Cups. Easy to eat, easy to digest, unless you're allergic to chocolate. Story mode would be a normal-sized Reese Cup. A bit bigger, but still easy to eat. Now, the combat simulation modes would be like a big Reese Cup pie. Very challenging, and you're gonna have to lock in if you're gonna eat it all at once. Boss fights push the player to inflict as much damage as possible within a turn limit. This promotes risky strategies to earn more rewards and enter higher tiers. You can only attempt this mode a limited amount of times each period, so playing ahead is a must. Peak value assessment and expansion drills will test your patience as you complete long fights with specific objectives. This is where I feel like Girls Frontline 2 truly feels like a tactical RPG. You're doing your best to stay alive while capturing an objective and defending it at the same time. Sometimes your team might be split up, or you might need to escort a unit across the map. It's the juggling of all these objectives that truly make the player think. The best part is that you can redo these as many times as you want until you get it right. The rewards also reset periodically, so you can come back for more. I like this a lot because gachas nowadays have an easy everyone wins participation reward, where effort is practically fruitless. In Girls Frontline 2, it makes you feel like losing isn't the end of the world. It motivates you to get better at the game and try new things out. It makes being a hard level all the more worth it, knowing you finally got it down. Now, the PvP in Girls Frontline is really something. You have this mode called Combat Exercise where you place down the defense team and other players can fight your defense team that's controlled by AI. After that, you'll get notified if you scored a win or a loss. What caught me off guard is that your defense rewards you with nothing. You also don't lose any points if you suffer a loss. This practically rallied the entire Girls Frontline community to only put down a level 1 character as defense for other players to get points easily. Through this method, all players will be able to rush the max rank for more rewards. I've never seen this kind of PvP environment in any game. It's like a bunch of people pushing up a boulder up a hill for a greater cause. You literally lose nothing and only help people by placing down a weak team. So why not do it? Once you unlock the ranked PvP mode, then you can start taking it seriously for more summons. Speaking of which, we haven't talked about summons much in this video. I've heard Mica is very generous to their players, but are the developers as generous as people make them out to be? The rates of Girls Frontline 2 are very similar to Genshin Impact, but it doesn't tell the full story. I feel like Girls Frontline 2 gets unfairly judged as Hoyo rates too suddenly, and I want to shed some light on this. Genshin Impact being a behemoth in the gacha industry has influenced other companies with their 50-50 standard. And Genshin, if you don't get the 5-star that you're looking for, then the next 5-star will be the character you want. They have a base rate of 0.6% chance of pulling a 5-star and a hard pity of 90. According to CN Law, this is all they are obligated to tell you. They only have to tell you the bare minimum chances of getting a unit. But there is an unmentioned soft pity. The soft pity starts around 70 pulls, which then slowly increases your odds of pulling a 5-star until you get a character. Girls Frontline shares the same 0.6% chance and 50-50 systems as Genshin, but its gacha works a bit differently. The hard pity is 80 instead of 90, and the details of the banner literally tells you that the soft pity is 58 instead of keeping it hidden. And from what I have experienced, soft pity scales super high. After 238 free pulls, I managed to get 4 5-stars in total, which roughly estimates to needing 60 pulls on average for a character. And yes, the game provided me this much currency without spending a single cent. Not to show the devs too much here, but I can see why everyone says that they're generous. After playing for just 1 week, I was able to pull 320 times. This isn't an exaggeration. 50 pulls went into the beginner banner, 122 limited pulls went into the Somi banner since I lost through 50-50, and then there's the standard banner. I was able to pull 148 times, and if you pull 260 times, you get a selector, so that's nice. And on top of all of this, I still have 70 pulls saved up for the next banner. So in total, after playing from 1 week, they give you 390 pulls. I would say that's quite generous, and I'm concerned if they even want to make money. But regardless of this generosity, there's still an issue. Global has a different content schedule in comparison to its homeland. Many gacha games that get released globally get put on an accelerated banner. This is so they can rush the new players to the newest content faster. I'm not sure if the devs will follow this pattern, but if you're going to accelerate your content, you need to accelerate your rewards. While I'm thankful for all this generosity, I do have concerns on how rapid the upcoming patches may be. This gives players less time to prepare and save. But Global does have the advantage of knowing which characters are already good. It's like someone already finished the coloring book, and all you have to do is stay within the lines. This foresight can still help players plan ahead for future content, regardless of acceleration. My experience with Girls Frontline has been addicting. I personally enjoy being free to play and struggling with all the hard content. That's when the tactical element elements of these games truly shine. The thing that makes other games like Fire Emblem and XCOM so challenging is its insta-death and limited resources. Sure, in any gacha game you can always wail it out, but I've enjoyed the struggle so much that it motivates me not to spend. Unless you count the Somi skin. Does this still make me free to play? It was a gift. One innovation I would like to see in Girls Frontline is more puzzle solvable content, where the game forces you to use specific units. They do this for the tutorial missions, and I enjoy how they make you think things out, and does a great job at teaching the player all the mechanics you need to know. Having more puzzle content like this can also help players understand how units work and teach new strategies. Imagine if there was some type of community mode that isn't PvP, and you could just create a map with specific units. You could then upload these levels and players could download to see if they could solve the tactical puzzles. Basically, Mario Maker, but with gun waifus. Speaking of waifus, this game is full of them, but the amazing thing is how much attention to detail they have in their personalities and animations. Take Somi for example. She has a unique animation if you have her equipped with a Somi gun. Like literally, the gun is called Somi. Kasina is my personal favorite because she always looks like she's scheming something. The game features a dormitory where each girl has their own lifestyles and hobbies. You can angle the camera however you like and set it as a home screen. I personally like Somi's duck a lot, so I made it my wallpaper. His name is Leo. There's also an AFK dispatch system where you select girls to complete tasks to farm your materials over time. The quality of your dispatch will improve as you give gifts to your units. There's also a shop and a unique gacha system within the side content. At the beginning of this video, I asked if Girls Frontline 2 would be a well-rounded game. Will it live up to that? The game offers story content that both new and old players can enjoy. The UI helps simplify data for casuals, but has detailed descriptions for invested players. The gameplay offers content that is both easy and challenging. While I'm able to auto 80% of the game, the 20% I can't auto ends up taking about half of my total playtime. The game is polished with brilliant visuals, music, and cutscenes. The game feels more like a passion project than a sequel. After looking at everything in this game, I can't find anything wrong with it. Sure, tactical RPGs may not be for everyone, but that's more of a preference than anything else. For those who do enjoy them, I can't help but implore you to try this game out. It shines bright in every department and doesn't cut any corners. You can't just advertise one part of Girls Frontline 2, because that wouldn't do it justice. It's for this reason that I truly think this game is the most well-rounded gacha I have ever played, and they deserve every bit of success from its global launch. It exceeded expectations overseas, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Well, before you go, I just want to say thank you for watching to the end. That means a lot to me. I have other videos on my YouTube channel if you want to check them out. I have a reroll guide for Girls Frontline 2 if you're convinced to try it out, and I also have a review for Neverness to Everness if you want to know everything about that game. But regardless, thank you for the support. Drop a subscribe or a comment below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.